What's good, guys? Welcome to Red Corner Boxing. You with Jam and Mr. Neutral here for the weekend review. We're going to be covering all things Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. It was a terrific night. We're going to get to that in just a moment with Mr. Neutral, my co-founder of Red Corner Boxing. But first and foremost, we are proudly sponsored by EasyStorage.com, your place to go for all your storage needs across the United Kingdom. How are you on this fine Sunday evening, Mr. Neutral?
Yes, good, James. As we were saying before in the previous program, before we got the root information that we want actually streaming to YouTube, which is very strange. Yeah, we were talking about Brandon Glanton and Chris Smith. Just to close that up very quickly.
Let's restart, mate. Let's restart because the people watching on YouTube, they've not seen it, so we need to restart it, mate. So let's just start with Chris Smith beat Brandon Glanton in the cruiserweight division. It was a very good performance, like you said in the previous one, but people ain't heard it yet on YouTube, so we'll say it again. Billum Smith fought very well off the back foot. Glanton was very game. The American came in tough. He put it on CBS. CBS looked in trouble at times, especially during the first 5 or 6. Maybe the 7th and 8th, he started losing a little bit of gasoline. When that happened, CBS just outsmarted him, just showed his experience, his levels. He fought at a higher level. And Glanton just missed out on getting a scout that would have been huge for his career. But there's nothing to say that he couldn't come back. And I think he'll get some big fights over in the UK now from the back of that performance.
I totally agree with you. He put a performance that, the promoters over here love to see. Give this man a fight. And you're right, there was times in this fight where they were genuinely worried for Chris. But you're right, he did gas out a bit in the end. He was still coming forward, but the power had gone. Smith was then taking the shots quite easily and then returning with heavy shots of his own. But as I said in the previous one, it was a really good performance off the back foot, off a pressure fighter at cruiserweight. You don't see that kind of pressure at the heavier weights than you would, say super middle or light heavy. So yeah, very good performance from Smith. Glanton will come on for that. He'll get another big fight, I'm pretty sure, because he's now entered the top 5 at cruiserweight very easily. I know he's ranked higher, but if you look past, you can't look past Zotto, Ramirez, Higher, Chris Smith, Paddy Jack, and there's a couple of others there, but Glanton's definitely up there now, and he should get another big fight.
Yeah, it'll be good. Like, it'll be a good yardstick now to measure the next level of British talent. I think Eddie Hearn and the people last night, Ring Magazine, will try and keep hold of Glanton as a real test. He might not be a world champion someday, but he would be a very good test for someone who wants to be later on.
Yeah, maybe is it Richard? He's a light heavyweight, isn't he?
Yeah, so, he's on the way out now at the moment.
There is a couple of cruiserweights that they can make a fight for Glanton. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they use him again. Absolutely, and he's a danger. He's a danger to anybody. He's not
one he could fight. What about the next fight, Vidal Riley, Chev Clark? What about Vidal Riley? How did he look? He was impressive. I was very underwhelmed by Chev C4. But Riley looked very accomplished, didn't he? Everyone said he's an influencer. No, he trained an influencer in KSI. He's the real deal, mate.
Yeah. Sometimes when you take on coaching jobs, you get, labelled in the same, environment as KSI. But people know that he's an accomplished amateur before he become professional, and in his 11 fights now, he's got 10 knockouts, and 9 knockouts to unanimous decision. He's really looked good last night. I was really impressed with him. I didn't see him even lose a round. How did he give Chev Clark 3 rounds? I do not know, because he was just slower to the punch all night, and the punch stats were just ridiculously in favour of Riley. But Riley, where does he go next? I think, does he get a Chris Smith shot?
That's what I was thinking. Or at
because
least to Brad Glanton. See if he's ready for that level. Get him against Brad Glanton.
exactly.
Hawkins Ringside Live reckons Jack Massey could be the one. Another
Oh,
good fight. You know, he lost to
another good
obviously
fighter.
Charlie, got steamrolled, but Mac Massey's a tough lad. I wouldn't mind seeing that. So thank you, Hawkins. But yeah, there's some great fights for all these lads, mate. And it was just a good night, wasn't it? Until we got to another fight that's coming up. But next up, we had Leon Beefy Smith against Aaron the Silencer McKenna. Now, this for me was one of the performances of a lifetime from Aaron McKenna. He was so slick, so accomplished. He made Beefy look very ordinary. I was stunned. I'd been saying McKenna for months that he'd win, but then come fight week prediction, I bottled it and I went for Beefy on his experience. How wrong was I? McKenna was amazing.
They always say go with your gut feeling, jams in the in these situations. But what I loved about is it McKenna? Yeah,
Yeah,
Alan
Aaron,
McKenna.
yeah.
His performance, as you quite rightly say, was a career-defining performance against some would say world-class level Liam Smith. The only problem I had with Liam Smith coming into this fight was the simple fact that he's been inactive. He's been 18 months out the ring. You would never have thought it the way he kept coming forward and taking punishment from McKenna, especially in the later rounds, which after probably 10 rounds, I'm thinking, well, it's obvious he's not going to stop him. He's way behind, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised and not surprised, because I know what Scousers are like. It was a terrible night for Liverpool boxing.
Yeah, Hawkins Ringside Live said Aaron McKenna was easy to predict for the win over an inactive Beefy Smith. Well, you certainly predicted it, mate, but you were the only one out of the 10 of us. So congratulations to Hawkins on that pick, mate, for the Fight Week Prediction League on
Yes,
Wednesday.
yes, absolutely.
We done very well. Some
Yeah,
great fights for McKenna that could come up next, Mr. Neutral. I'd like to see him in with Denzel Bentley. I think that would be the one for me at 160.
it's what. Yeah, Denzel Bentley's one. I don't know if they want to give him another fight of that caliber just yet, but
Volney is another one that everything boxing said. Volney, that'd be a good one.
yes, Volney. I mean, this 154 division is stacked.
160,
Absolutely
even
stacked.
better.
Sorry, 160 is absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
There's lots of British middleweights that he can have a good go at.
Brad Pauls, who's fighting
Brad
on a
Paul.
small hall show again, which I think is a massive shame because he proved his decent level.
Well, after this Tottenham card and being on the undercard, I think they'd look a little bit higher, maybe on one of the undercards. Now we got Usyk Dubois too.
Yeah, great show to get him on.
He could well end up on that.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. But McKenna, young guy, great skill set, fantastic performance, and he can mix it up, and that's why he's creating a nice bag for himself, a bag or two. I really like that what he's doing. As for Beefy, this level obviously is now caught up with him. I think I would imagine Team Smith, they live in the real world. They'll have a look at it properly, and I expect them to make the correct decision.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's time to call it for Beefy. Like, he's been a great servant to the sport of boxing. The whole family has. They're absolutely tremendous. You've still got Mundo going strong. But Beefy's time's up. He's not going to want to drop any lower level now. He's not going to want to go to another lower domestic level than what he lost at last night. He's not going to go back down to English title, British title. And even then he might struggle because he didn't look a shadow of his former self last night, in truth. It was a shame to see, but he went out, as always, on his shield like a man. If I was him, I'd just say, that's the gloves, hang them up. I'm out. I've made enough money. I've got a great reputation. He'll always be in the sport. The Smith family are absolute legends of the game, especially in Britain. It's time for Liam for me to call it.
Who knows?
We'll see. We shall see, mate. Well, the next fight was obviously a trilogy that no one asked for. Anthony Yard against Lyndon Arthur. I think it was one of the most. I'm not being horrible to either fighter because believe me, they both sparked me in a second. But it was one of the most boring fucking fights I have ever had to do a watch along of. I was literally sitting there counting the patterns on my rug at times because I was that bored. It was pretty horrific. Lyndon Arthur was tough, but my God, it was so fucking boring.
Well, that was
Anthony Yard
testament.
obviously won. What did you think to it, Mr. Neutral?
Hearing you say that, James, is just testament to the commentary team at Red Corner Boxing for keeping the fans enthralled.
We had over 500, didn't we, for that one at one point on X and on
It
YouTube.
was
Oh my God, it
boring.
was hard work.
But look, let's look at it. It was a trilogy. It was one apiece. From a British point of view, with if you look at the background of Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur, it was going to happen because of all the nonsense from the promoters, delays in other bigger fights. So he needed a comeback fight. He'd been almost a year out. Can't remember quite right from the
Yeah,
note. So he
been a
needed
while.
a comeback fight. He needed a big British fight, and this was a big light heavyweight British fight. And it had that trilogy factor put in. Although Yard knocked out Lyndon Arthur in the second fight, he never ever looked like he was going to do it in the third fight.
No.
For me, I think he come in lighter in this fight than he did in the previous fight because he looked tiny compared to Lyndon Arthur.
He'd lost a lot of muscle mass, hadn't he? He was nowhere near as
Yeah,
stacked as he usually is.
and the way he was reaching and lunging at Lyndon Arthur with lefts and overhand rights, because he's a lot taller. It was strange to watch. Not a convincing victory, a victory but not convincing. I didn't like Lyndon Arthur's rope-a-dope. Failed badly at it, for near on 5 rounds from round 8, round 7 to round 12. He was just simply on the ropes, covering up and trying to, rope a dope and fight back. It was not good for him, and that's where he lost the fight for me, Lyndon Arthur, because he was competitive up until round 7.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Arthur up until, like you say, around 6 or 7, and then he just seemed to just survive, like he was just trying to survive, and that was a shame. But he comes out of it a credit. He's still a tough warrior, but it's Yard I'm more disappointed in. I'm more disappointed in Yard, mate. I don't think he's anything like he burst on the scene as. He's not that explosive knockout merchant. He's lost a lot of the muscle that made him what he was. Made the girls want to watch him and the lads want to see him knock men out. That seems to have disappeared from his game. He just doesn't look like the same Anthony Yard. Something has happened in his life that has changed the way he fights, and it's not for the better. I don't think he'll be around too much longer, and he certainly won't be getting any mega fights from that performance last night. But that's just my opinion.
It's hard to say. I mean, like when we said before, he didn't look as big as he looked, but because he won, he will get another fight.
Yeah, what level? What level after that?
That's a very viable question. But every time he's gone up and fought at world class level, he's failed, and it's 3 times that he's been beaten. So he's probably desperate to take that step to go over the hill, and see where that snowball, if that starts rolling for him. It's a bit late. He's 33, going on 34. It's last chance saloon. He's got to start moving.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. Well, that leads us on to the main event of the evening, which I, before the fight and for months before, said I wasn't interested in. It belongs in the trash. Nobody needs to see this fight. How bloody wrong was I? What a fucking cracker of a matchup this was between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. One of the greatest British fights I think anyone could say that they've seen. It was absolutely war of attrition from start to finish. Both men absolutely gave their all. Even Conor Benn, I think, has earned a lot of respect from that performance. Even though he lost by 4 rounds, that's about how I had it, 116, 112. But he definitely earned some respect. As long as his test come back clean, he deserves a lot of respect for that performance up at 160. What was your thoughts on the fight, mate? It was magical, wasn't it, at times?
The build-up,
Senior turning up.
Well, I go back to when it was first announced, and nobody wanted to see this fight.
Yeah.
Nobody. It wasn't until the egg incident that this fight was sold to the public, sold abroad in America, in Japan, over Europe, Australia, sold to the public. Stroke of genius? Maybe. Inadvertently? Probably. Then we get the drama with the gloves, the weight cutting. Is Senior going to be there? We get the backstories coming back to life, 35-year legacy fight. Chris Eubank won one, Senior won one, drew one with Nigel. And this was seen as, the sons reigniting that legacy on behalf of the fathers. The only missing ingredient was going to be Chris Eubank Senior at the fight, which, on hindsight, looking at it now, it was either masterstroke, again, planned, or it was a beautiful moment that was, at the last second.
I think it was pantomime myself. I think it was all scripted. I think he
I
got a nice bag for it as well.
I would like to believe it was last second. Come on, Dad, or someone from the team had contacted Chris, or vice versa. Say, I need to be there. I hope it's that. I hope it wasn't WWE style plan from day one.
Well, we had the fake Ed Sheeran, the fake AJ, the fake bloody Anthony
that
Hopkins as the bloody Silence of the Lambs guy. It was all fake all night, weren't it? Let's be truthful.
Yeah, that would have been
from the fight.
So after having said all that, if this fight had not delivered in the way it done last night, people around the world would have been calling it a bomb. It bombed. It was terrible. But look, not only did they do themselves justice, they did their father's 24 rounds justice. That he went through. It was the epitome. It was like watching Chris Eubank. See, I was there in 1990 in the first fight that Chris Eubank Senior won. I was a massive Chris Eubank Senior fan with his pose, coming into the ring. This man, for me, when I was, that is unrivaled as showman. But, having witnessed what Conor Benn has gone through and his chlormethine and the drugs, and he's not helped himself but becoming public with it. Hopefully one day they will, because that would clear up the story massively, especially of Conor Benn's favour. But look, his stock went up last night. Conor Benn. Many, many people are now giving him praise and saying, well, he's coming, barring a clean test, he's proved that he's a warrior. He's proved that he can battle 12 rounds with a middleweight who come in at 177 pounds. Man, Conor Benn's got to be very happy with that.
Where would you like him to go next? Are you thinking the Barrios fight at 147?
No, I don't see that straight away. I think he needs a booster fight. He needs a rest and a booster. I believe Barrios, PBC have got other plans for him right now.
Manny Pacquiao, apparently.
We'll see what happens there, but I expect to see Conor Benn back out in Riyadh season. That'll be from October onwards. But I would don't expect a miracle fight. Expect a typical matchroom matchup. To give Conor Benn a booster, but they'll still want to make some money, so they'll want a British fighter at 147, and I'm thinking Kell Brook.
Oh, fair enough.
Kell Brook was there last night. He said he would beat both of them. I think there's going to be more to come on this, and this would be the perfect booster, for Conor Benn to get down to 147 in the first place, win, and then have his team or Eddie Hearn move the balls, get the balls rolling, and get him that title shot. He's ranked number 3 at the WBC. Now that they'll make a decision, I don't see the rematch with Chris Eubank Jr. I think that's gone. They can't replicate it. it had it all. You can't recreate
I
that
think
now.
the only way that was going to happen, Neutral, was if Eubank lost. If Ben won, then they would have had the rematch. I think the rematch was pretty much a
Yeah,
one-way clause without being a one-way clause. Because
yeah,
if Eubank
yeah,
loses, it's an upset. We need to see it again. Eubank wins like he did by 4 rounds. There's no need to see it again. He did what he said he'd do, and he beat Conor Ben. It was a great fight, but like you said, it will never be replicated. There's no point in trying to state
yeah,
that whole thing again because it will never be the same. It will
yeah.
just disappoint.
Very hard to. Yeah, and you can never. It's like leaving your wife for the first time, and then you go back. It's never the same.
Yeah, that's it. The grass ain't always greener, they say. That's it. What would you do with Eubank next, quickly, before we wrap this up, bro? What would you do with Eubank next? Would you get him up to 168? Because he's clearly struggling, despite what people are saying. He's clearly struggling to make 160. He wouldn't have given up $500,000 for nothing. So he's clearly struggling to make the 160 limit. Would you now? It might have been because of the rehydration clause, but still, he couldn't even make the 160. Would you push him up to 168 now if he
Let's not
continues?
forget that he was offered the Canelo fight back in October. He turned it down.
Yeah.
So it was a fight they wanted to revisit. I would imagine now there's no more fights out there but Canelo,
Yeah. Probably
right?
see that, and that'll be his
Canelo
swan
has
song, his
signed a
big payday before
four-fight.
he writes off into the sunset.
Canelo has signed a 4-fight deal with Riyadh season, and Chris Eubank will be one of them in 2026. And I think Chris Eubank will sit back and wait for that fight. If he takes another fight in the meantime, I think, and he loses, I think that will cost him the Canelo fight. So he won't take the risk, like Bud Crawford's doing now.
Yeah.
He's waiting a long time. He'll wait for Canelo, and so will Chris Eubank.
Sit and wait for the bag. Yeah, fair enough, mate. Well, that pretty much wraps this review weekend show up. Thank you so much, Mr. Neutral, as always, my co-host, my co-founder of Red Corner Boxing. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Give us a like, share, comment, and give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. God bless everyone. We are proudly sponsored by Easy Storage. Just to let you know one more time, your place to go for all your storage needs. We have the Prediction League coming up on Wednesday, which has been a great show so far. I'm climbing up. I'm climbing up the ladder.
You are, mate. You had a good week. I think I put the heebie-jeebies up ears with all this.
Can't get relegated on my own channel, mate, can we?
Relegated. I would never, ever be able to show my face in public again. Red Corner Boxing's reputation. So I have faith in you, my man. I know you're going to have a great week this week. We got 11 fights this week coming up. Obviously, the Canelo card, the New York card with Barbosa, and Haney, and Teofimo, and Ryan Garcia, Rolando Romero, etc., etc. And we have a Thursday night fight. Kevin Lerena is back in action at heavyweight, and he's fighting Radchenko on Thursday night. So we got a busy week coming up, Jams. Prediction show Wednesdays. We got League 2 Wednesday at 8 o'clock as well, Prediction League of the same card. So we'll be confirming all the names and participants for that. But Jams, another great week coming up. We can't wait.
Brother.
It's been a great show.
Love it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Neutral. God bless everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. And from us, we'll see you next time.